The reason being, it took the default value. But for this instance, if you want to give anything, you can give it here at the instance level, or at the other way to do is, see, if you see, this is the same thing, title, test. Let me give the test. I'll give totally different name so that we'll understand it's picking up or not. There you see, it's picking up the title from that position itself, and that's how, if you see, if you give it here, it takes. But the other way to do it is, we can go to the page designer, that is service portal configuration, designer, the page name, and to the widget. The page name is the notes page. So we'll go to the notes page. Yes, and there you go. I'll edit it. Notes from schema. So this is the one which we are saying, that's the default value. Changing in designer. See how simple this one looks now. There you see, changing in designer. You already had got that, and if you reload it here also, you can see the same thing, changing in designer. So that's how the schema options will be helpful in understanding what and how each and every instance maintains. Well, the next thing we're going to understand is the directives. Now, there are many directives in AngularJS which are nothing but the extended HTML attributes. So now, AngularJS has a number of built-in directives. So there are already many built-in directives, but if we want, we can create our own. So there are some examples which are all starting with ng, like ng app, ng repeat, ng show, ng model, ng click. So these are all directives which are built in, provided by Angular. So the directives can attach a specified behavior to the element. So it can be an element, or it can be an attribute, it can be a CSS class, it can be comments. So anything can be part of these directives. Well, for the directives are nothing but they are defined as Angular providers. So generally there are Angular directives, but in ServiceNow they are called as providers. If you want to see what are all the default providers provided, we can go to Service Portal and then Angular providers. So let us go here to Angular. There you see the Angular providers within Service Portal, and there are 34 Angular providers provided, and you can see there is BM download button, few things. So directive names are camel case, which must be referred using snake case in HTML. So directive name basically will be in a camel case, but you know the snake case, right? Like if there is my directive, the way it looks in snake case is, you'll be having the greater and the less than symbols. Within that, you'll be having the name of the directive, where every time after the camel case, a hyphen comes in. So all letters should be lowercase, spaces are replaced by hyphens, hyphens are inserted before letters which were uppercase. So which were uppercase here, they were just replaced by hyphen. So that's how it looks. The client script field defines what the directive does. Okay, let's try to open up one and see what this contains. We cannot edit it here. You can see there is a type, so that is directive. The name of the directive is this. So you can understand how does this look in the HTML page where you are using. It's going to be like bm-download-button, everything being small case. And then this is a client script function. You can see there is a function and it's returning few types. So we'll understand what are all this also. So directive properties. Now directive has several properties. It has a template, that is the HTML to render. It has a restrict, specifies which methods can invoke the directive, that is the element or attribute or class or comment. So which should do that? Replace. It tells AngularJS to replace the element the directive is declared on. So anything, if it all has to be replaced, that will be part of this. Scope. An object that contains a property for each isolate scope binding. This is typically used when making components reusable. In the link function is executed while attaching the template to the DOM. So the link function will be helpful here. Here you can see the template, that is the HTML template which we want, and then the scope. Now as I said, the size, the months, indicators, breakdowns. So an object that contains a property for each isolate scope binding. So that's how it is. For each isolated scope binding, this is the values. And then we have a controller. You can see the controllers, which takes all the required injections, and then it does. You can see that there is a function, various functions within this, and yeah, so these are the few properties utilized within this Angular provider. So the next thing which we have to understand is the Angular provider relationship. Well, you have created an Angular provider, well and good, but how do you use that and where do you use that? That is key. So for performance reasons, widgets load only the Angular providers they use. That means if you go to widget, you'll be able to see are there any Angular providers used or not. So let's go and check how Angular providers are there within widgets or not. So I'll go to widgets. Let me open up any widget, and if you see the top copy, there is the Angular provider section and there is no Angular provider provided. So if at all there was anything which has already been part, we would have able to see in here. But if you don't have, and if you want to put a dependency into this widget, then we'll have to edit the Angular provider, and then you can see all the 34 just now which I specified in the button. Download button is present here. So if you want to utilize these capabilities, it has to be part of this, and that's where the establishment is done for this relationship. Okay, so the next thing we'll understand is record watch. So before going into the record watch, what the other thing we can see is how can we use the Angular provider. A custom Angular provider will be creating and utilizing that in the widget. So this is for the tutorial. In the next tutorial, we'll create a Angular provider, utilize that in our nodeless widget, and then we'll understand what record watch is. After understanding what record watch is, we'll be brushing up with the Angular basics which are required for service portal. Thank you.